Hi friend, it is Tuesday, August 11th. I'm Pat Sloan. This is our daily video. So I'm going to do the challenge first, or the topic of the day first, and then we're going on a picnic. I'm talking about the scrappy thing up here, and if we have time, I have a Q&A question, so I'm going to get to that. Okay, our topic of the day is large pieces. Now we could go a couple different ways with large pieces, but I think that today would be a great day for you to look at how you store large pieces. Now large might be something you bought for backing, so it could be 4, 5, 8 yards if you're doing a big quilt for backing. It could just be border fabric, so maybe it's 2 yards. So I'm going to take you up here and show you on my shelf above me here. So there is whoops, let me go a little bit higher. See on this shelf there's that big aqua or light blue. There we go. See the light blue fabric? That is enough yardage for a backing. And right next to it is one, just to the right of it is one that's a bit smaller, and that is something, oh, it's probably like 2 yards maybe, which is something I bought years ago for a border. Note I said years ago, and it's still folded nicely in there. I'm not sure what it was supposed to be for, but I still like the fabric, so I'm hoping someday I make a quilt and it becomes a perfect border for it. Now I do store some of those larger pieces in the bins like that, but often I have bolts, empty bolts, and you can often ask your quilt shop if you would like to, if they have empty bolts that they will give you, because they often do. Then I will take like the yardage for a backing and put it on the empty bolts. And then sometimes I take that yardage for backing, I put them all in another place, like not in this room, because this room is more the room where it's my things I use all the time. So I don't want these big pieces of backing that might be for something future down the road sitting in here taking up space. But the downfall of putting them in the other room is I forget I own them, and they could actually be perfect for the border on a quilt, or I'll forget to go check them for backing. So that's one of my things. After I actually have usable wrists again, when I can lift things, I want to reorg a bunch of that stuff and sort of offload things I know I'm never going to use, and get it reorganized. So today, take a look at how you store large pieces of fabric and tell me about it. You can tell me here at YouTube, over at Facebook, Quilt Along with Pat Sloan group. If you have photos over there at the Facebook group, that would be awesome. I would love to see what you're doing. Okay, so now let's go on to our going on a picnic block. And yes, it's today, because tomorrow, Wednesday, is my day on the Summer Dreams Alicio Iron Tour, which means on Wednesday I'll also be doing a giveaway for a mini iron. Shh, that's tomorrow. But today we have going on a picnic. So here is the next block, and these blocks, remember my friend Anne made them for me, and so she did this one like the pattern, which showed it with 2 fabrics, the background and the other fabric. But I'm going to show you some other ways to think about this, because this block has tons of potential, and it is called, oh wait, I forgot to tell you. It's called To Grill or Not to Grill. So I'm curious, like in your life, what is the grill in relation to your cooking, the outdoor grill? I mean, do you love, is your family like huge on the outdoor grill, like you grill all the time, or are you sort of a sometimes grill person, or like you don't even own one? In my family, if we go to my dad's, he is like the grill master. I swear the best steaks in Virginia my dad makes. He buys a really good cut of meat, and he has excellent seasoning. He just cooks it just perfection. We here at our house, we are like the sometimes grillers. Although we did get a bigger grill this year for the first time. We used to have some of these sort of tabletop gas grills, but we got a regular size gas grill. This for the first time in many years. And then I broke my wrist. So it's like, oh well, that's like so eventually we'll get to grill. Greg's doing some grilling. He's doing some grilling, but I really wanted to experiment with it. So I want to hear for you, for your going on a picnic block. Is the grill involved in your picnics, in your regular life and in your picnics? I think there's always a grill at a picnic. I can't imagine a grill not at a picnic, unless you are just doing like cold picnic. So anyway, here's the block. So what are some ways you can spice this up? You could use 2 colors. So you could do like a 9 patch in the middle instead of having the background here. You could put, you know, another fabric. You could also change these corners out to a different fabric, even still. So I also thought if you were doing 2 at a time, I'd show you some of the combinations. So I think these 2 would be a great combination for this block. You know, I think that's really fun. It's kind of got 2 stripes, which would be kind of a cool way to work with it. Here's one with the peach. I would put the peach, maybe if you want to simulate this layout, put the peach in where this print is, and then for the other blocks, put the little basket weave. Let me just get you down here a little bit closer then, because I'm going to show you the back in a second. And then the other combo I had was, I'm into this stripe. I think it's so cool. These 2. So I like this really open print. I think that would be just gorgeous here in the alternate. And then use the darker right here. Okay, so those are some options. And did my block. So those of you who love to see how blocks are pressed, this is not my thing, how blocks are pressed. I really don't care, but I know some of you do. So she's pressing mostly to the dark side as best as she can. It looks like she pretty much pressed everything to the dark side. Of course, this is sewn in a row, so this row is pressed in this way. So of course you have some overlap. There's no way you can not have something, you know, against here. But it's very minimal, so there's not a lot of shadowing, and that's when you see the seam on the other side. So like when I turn this over, there is a seam here. This is pressed this way, but you can't really see that seam unless I were to hold it up to the light. So it's because it's both the same fabric. Well, this fabric is underneath and then this fabric. So anyway, there you go. That is the going on a picnic block. Let's talk about the scrappy. Let's talk about the scrappy stars, the little wishes on the wall. So I am working on this very slowly. I don't have a lot of strength, and later in the evening it gets very achy, and so I can only do so much. You know, picking up 1 square like this, you know, 1 square of fabric, it actually takes a lot more muscles and things than you realize. So if everything starts to get achy, I can't really even do that. But I did manage to get another star done, which means I only have 2 more. So here's the second of 4 stars. And I did a couple of more, excuse me, 9 patches. Whoops. So I'm debating on the 9 patch, like how, excuse me, how to handle it. So up here, I don't know if you can see them. I don't think you can see them too good. I'll have to move all of this over then. But I've been putting the 9 patches right along there. And I'm thinking that I do the blue, and I do one that's primarily red, and the one that's primarily blue, and then maybe randomly put in some of the different ones, but do mostly blue and red ones, and then a random other one here or there. So that is one one process I'm doing for this. Plus, Sue cut these strips for me, and so I started on the top row, and I have a couple of them put together. All right, so we had a question that I thought would be really fun to answer from Kathy. And Kathy says, what is the biggest quilt I have ever made? And do I ever make miniatures? Okay, sorry about the cough. I've got a tickle way down in there. It's allergy season here for me. Oh, I think I got rid of it. There. So if you want to know if I ever did a big quilt, or what is the biggest quilt I've did? Probably my birthday quilt was the biggest quilt, which is probably around 110 by 110, something like that. So I will link you to my birthday quilt so you can go see what that is. The other one is, she asked, was do I ever do miniature quilts? Now, I do small blocks, but I don't do that many miniature quilts. So I thought I'd tell you the difference between a small block and a miniature quilt. And I would use an example from the Splendid Sampler. So from the Splendid Sampler, the blocks are 6 inches. So this is a Splendid Sampler block. It is a 6-inch modified churn dash with like a square and a square in the middle. But this to me is not a miniature quilt. It's a 6-inch block. I would not expand this out and have it as a whole quilt. Like a miniature quilt to me would be, you look at this and it could actually be a big quilt. You're taking the proportions down and in multiple, like, so you're recreating what would be full size into a small, like maybe 12 by 12 would be a full size quilt. So I would not consider this a miniature quilt. It's a block. But this block from the sampler, I would consider that you could call this a miniature quilt if you did a few more. Like if I made a few more of these and maybe even made them smaller, because this is a repeat unit of this triangle, and there would be, and I have done a big quilt like this the same way. So it's taking the proportion of that triangle smaller and then making enough of them that if it were done in the fuller size shape, it would be a full size quilt. So this is getting close to what I would consider a miniature. But I have done a couple of miniatures, like with little, I think 1-inch half square triangles. I have one quilt that I did like that. It's hanging in my dining room. It's too high up. I couldn't reach it to bring it. So I'm curious. Do you do miniatures? What is the largest size quilt that you have done? These are really great fun questions. You know, I have to think about doing a miniature. This is the kind that would intrigue me, to do something like this, more like a repeat block, or maybe a miniature. I don't know what. I kind of like that shape though. It's kind of fun. So those are from the Splendid Sampler 2, Splendid Sampler 2. And when I got them out, I'm like, oh, I love these blocks. I still love them so much. I love the colors and the fabric. I can't wait to get back working on that, on the Splendid Sampler 2. And I have the Splendid Sampler 1 blocks. I think I have the whole top done, or it's almost done, which is one of the many that I did for Splendid Sampler 1. But I'm digressing. Okay. Thank you so much for visiting with me. I'm so happy to see you, my friend. I love you, and I will catch you online. Mwah.